in the oil sector. I see that Flip-Flop Turney, Flip-Flop Ben Turney, who now these days has become a full-time Twitter ramper of short Horse Hill stocks, is a bit confused about why today's announcement from UK Oil and Gas doesn't seem to have resulted in shares going through the roof. The announcement, for what it's worth, is about the latest flow test, and we're now told that the last test, which we were told was 168 barrels a day from the Portland zone, they've done a new new test, which is 323 barrels per day, and this basically means that Horse Hill people are claiming that we are seeing 1,700 barrels a day odd coming in from the well. Folks like Ben are extrapolating this. One well, let's extrapolate it across several wells or multiple wells, and let's assume that flow rates stay as they are forever, because the company talks about over the 30 to 90 hour flow periods from each of the three zones, no clear indication of any reservoir pressure deletion was observed. It's not entirely true. One of the things did actually show depletion coming from 900 down to, 800 over a 12-hour period. So we have seen some depletion. But the point is, 30 to 90 hours is really a very short time. In terms of an oil field, you'd be looking to see what are the depletion rates over 6 months, over 12 months, over 2 to 3 years, and I tell you, they are going to be massive. That's the thing, that's the piece of Lenny maths which people like Flip-Flop and the other Horse Hill rampers choose to ignore. They're quite happy to do Lenny maths to extrapolate from one well across the whole acreage, but they won't do any Lenny maths to work out what depletion rates could be, and therefore put a concrete valuation on the asset. I see indeed that Flip-Flop is now talking about how if 1,700 barrels per day is sustainable, one can put a concrete valuation on the prospect. That is complete and utter rubbish. Until you have any indication of what the long-term depletion rates are, that is one issue. Secondly, you don't know that this extends throughout the whole acreage. You have no idea of that at all. Therefore, one cannot put a concrete valuation on this at all. I don't know what the young fool is talking about other than his own book. What one does know, however, is two things. Firstly, that every ramper on this planet appears to be long of the stock already. Therefore, you do ask, where's the new buyers going to come from? They're not going to be institutional buyers, so where is this new pool of private investors going to come in to take the stock higher? I put it to you that most private investors who want to be involved in the Horse Hill stocks are already in. Just look at the balance between mad rampers and cynics on the bulletin boards. They're overwhelmingly in favour of the rampers. The same in terms of Twitter. Now, everybody's already got the stock. What is going to push the stock higher? Because some of those folks are going to want to take profits at some stage. I think we've seen a bit of that already. Or some of those folks are going to have bills, you know. We all have bills. They may want to go on holiday. You never know. Or they may find that other of their positions go wrong. So there will be some sellers there. Where are the fresh buyers from? Perhaps the new migrants from Syria. Maybe the people who are suggested that they're going to buy the stock. Or maybe George Osborne thinks all those rich disabled people whose benefits he's stripped should be going out there buying Horse Hill stocks. The reality is that it's going to be hard to find fresh buyers. The other thing which Flip-Flop has perennially forgotten in his analysis here is the fact that all the Horse Hill companies needed to raise capital. We've seen most of the smaller plays do their placements. We've had the ramp, the pump, etc. And we have also had the dump via placements. We've seen that. But there are two standout cases where we have not seen a placing today. Flip-Flop wonders why UK oil and gas shares are off by 5%. I can tell you, Ben, it's very simple. This company is almost out of cash. It's probably down to its last 1.5 million. Everyone in the city knows that it's looking to raise 8 to 10 million. And moreover, everyone in the city seems to believe that Mr. David Lenegas is still pulling the strings. It's not little Gopher Sanderson. So we know it's got to do a big fundraise. Given how the last Lenegas Associated fundraise went, that is LGO, it doesn't look so good. LGO was a complete and utter disaster. Big Dave set out to raise 5 to 6 million quid and ended up with just 1.36 million. It was an abject disaster. It's not enough to save the company. It's going to go bust. That's a big problem. But against that backdrop, little Steve Sanderson, it won't be him of course, it'll be Lenegas, has to go and raise 8 to 10 million quid to fund the ongoing commitments of UK oil and gas. That's an awful lot of cash. And that is why the shares are lower. It's because why on earth would you want to buy in the secondary market when all you need to do is sign up with, I suggest, Cornhill, Beaufort, Shard, and say, well, I'll tell you what, just put me down for the next placing in UK oil and gas. If you want to buy shares in the Horse Hill stocks, it's very simple. Sign up with all the discount houses. They're all going to be offered stock in the placing. And just say, I'm opening account with you and I want to buy shares in UKOG when there's the placing. Until then, don't bother giving me a call. And if you don't get me stock in the placing, you're never going to have my business again. If you want to do that, that is what you do. So why on earth would anyone buy in the secondary market? If I believed in this story, and for the avoidance of doubt, part of me does, part of me doesn't. I don't think you can put a concrete value on it. That's my problem with it. I'm not saying it's worthless. I'm not saying it's not commercial. I'm just saying you can't put a value on it. And at the moment, the good news is in the price, the bad news isn't. If you believe in it, surely you just sell your shares into the next Lenny ramp and tell Beaufort, Shard, Cornhill, whatever, that you want stock in the placing. And that's why the shares are going down. The need for Solo is even more critical. You will remember Solo needs to hand over $500,000 by is it March the 30th, or when was it? It was about last week sometime. No, it was a week last Saturday. So 9 days ago, it was meant to hand over $500,000 to increase its stake in the Kilawari or whatever it is field out in Bongo land. It hasn't handed over the cash because it hasn't got it. Solo Oil desperately needs money to complete on that deal, but also just to keep the frigging lights on. So it obviously needs a placing too. And that is why shares in all the Horse Hill stocks are weak, is there is this great uncertainty. UKOG and Solo need to do their placing. Until that's lifted, it doesn't matter how much the shares are ramped with upbeat RNSs, doesn't matter how much they're ramped with ludicrous comments on Twitter, they are not going to go sharply higher. Looking at the rest of the market today, one stock